Welcome to the Built for Playmakers YouTube channel. I'm your host, Kelvin Hunt, editor of ChopChat.com. Hope you guys are doing well. If this is your first time listening and you're an FSU fan, you came to the right place. You guys that have been rocking with me for a while, we appreciate you guys coming back. Man, big win. FSU is ranked number 3 in the latest AP polls that literally just came out about an hour ago. Dominating win over Southern Mississippi Saturday night. 66-13, and it was a game that went about how we thought it would. It was a game you expected FSU to dominate. They were 31-point favorites. It's the second game in a row that FSU has covered the spread. They were slight underdogs against LSU in the opener and won outright for the second year in a row, I might add, and then covered the spread almost in the first half against Southern Miss. And it was a game that I wasn't really sure how it would play out. I expected them to win in blowout fashion, but you just didn't know how Mike Norvell was going to go about handling the game. Was he going to get up early and then, start putting in, some reserve players and young players, and you didn't know if they were going to give up some plays with the backups in and all that good stuff. But really, Mike Norvell treated this game as a scrimmage game, almost the way Jimbo Fisher used to do back in the day when FSU was really rolling. And I must admit, I wasn't a huge fan of how Mike Norvell handled this game. Just from, I don't know, it just felt like we were kind of just playing backyard offense out there or something. And I don't know. Jordan Travis was running around and just making plays, and you kind of felt like, man, if they were playing like a real good team, obviously they wouldn't have that approach. But at the same time, it's like, it just looked kind of disjointed. One of my favorite terms is whenever a team's not playing well, is it just look raggedy. And but the crazy thing is, when I think about it, it's like, man, just 2 years ago, you lost a game against Jacksonville State where you kind of took that approach. Now, granted, look, I have put that loss on solely on Mike Norvell. If they played that game, 100 more times with the exact same players, and Jacksonville State had the exact same players, they would win that game every single time. It was just one of those deals where Norvell and those guys kind of just, for whatever reason, it happened, and it's whatever. But I look back now and I'm like, man, they literally treated this game like a scrimmage and just rolled over Southern Miss, who will probably make a bowl. They made a bowl last year, and they got some decent players. And it 31-3. Southern Miss's offense had 70 total yards at halftime. 70. They were 0 of 5 on third down, or 1 on fourth down in the first half. And the crazy thing is, you would think, like, Jared Verse, you would think he would have like 2 or 3 sacks or whatever, or Patrick Payton would have, multiple sacks. And it really wasn't that. Those guys, they were living in the backfield all night, and they were like getting right to the QB right before he would let the ball go or whatever. But I think that probably caused him to have some errant throws and whatnot. And what's crazy is the one touchdown that Southern Miss scored was aided on a 3rd and 10 penalty for roughing a passer, who I'm still not sure that was roughing a pass on Patrick Payton. They didn't show the replay, and probably for good reason, because it was a bogus call in my opinion. But if they don't throw that flag, Southern Miss probably doesn't even score a touchdown in the game. And so all in all, it was you saw a lot of great things. You're talking about Maurice Smith didn't play start on offensive line. Robert Scott didn't play, started on offensive line. You saw Darian Williamson getting out there, make some plays. Span make some plays. And so, it was good to see those young guys that don't really get an opportunity to make plays have that opportunity. I know one of the main talking points was, during the game and afterwards was Johnny Wilson. And look, I wrote on Twitter. You probably have already seen it if you follow me. And basically, a lot of people were saying some things on Twitter last night, and I'm just like, man, I know it's fandom and people were talking with emotions, but Johnny Wilson is played too big of a part in helping FSU win 10 games last year. To just say, hey, take him out or, put somebody else in there, like going forward that, whatever. Look, Johnny Wilson is what he is at this point. He's going to drop some passes here and there, but just like the LSU game, he's going to make some very, very, very tough catches. And I don't know if and look, and even last night, I mean, there were a couple of those plays where, I mean, the play where he went up, and I think it would have been a touchdown, or right before the goal line. He had the ball and he came down really hard, and really the ground caused the ball to come loose. And I think that happened on another. I mean, it was a drop, but it's not like he was just solely wide open out there every single time and just dropped the pass. I mean, these are some contested catches or whatever. And, so it's one of those things where it's just, and he could be banged up a little bit too. So you kind of got to take that into consideration. And, it's probably more so just a confidence thing. That's what I think. As an athlete, as a former athlete, I can tell you it's really easy to get in your own head a little bit, and confidence is everything as an athlete. I know those of you may or may not know I played college baseball, and if I went up there to hit thinking that I wasn't going to get a hit, more than likely I wasn't going to get a hit. But if you go up there with some confidence and you're seeing the ball well, usually you're going to have some success. Now baseball is obviously different because you can hit the ball hard somewhere. That's the ultimate goal. Hit the ball hard somewhere. If you do that consistently enough, the ball is going to find the openings. But with football, it's a bit different, and it's one of those things where I think and Mike Norvell has handled this situation before, not specifically with Johnny Wilson, but you go back to Ryan Fitzgerald last year. I mean, as bad as he was with field goals, and what happened now, part of it was because Mike Norvell didn't really have another option to throw out there to attempt field goals. But you saw as the season progressed, Fitzgerald kind of found, he went back to the fundamentals, and he kind of found himself towards the middle to end of the season. And, he was able to make some kicks. And so far this year, knock on wood, Ryan Fitzgerald is 2 of 2 on field goals. So I think, we'll see, as long as Wilson is healthy, I think we'll see Mike Norvell continue to give him opportunities to go out there and make plays. Because look, they're going to need him. Even if Johnny Wilson, doesn't catch any passes, he's still a viable enough target out there that he's going to create opportunities for other guys to go out there and make plays. Mainly Keon Coleman, Jaheim Bell, Morlock, all those guys. So look, it'll be interesting to see what happens this week at practice. If you don't see Wilson at practice, or maybe he has the green jersey on still, maybe he's just dealing with some nagging injuries or whatever, which can affect you. I remember I had an issue playing. I had an issue with my wrist, and just the smallest thing sometimes can throw you off. Just kind of shake your confidence a little bit. So, and obviously football is a contact sport. So we'll see how that shakes out. One other takeaway too, man, FSU has an embarrassment of riches at running back. Man, whoo! Good to see Trey Benson run hard, but the guy and Rodney Hill ran, he ran impressively. But the guy that really caught my attention, if you follow me on Twitter last night during the game, I was like, hey, Keziah Holmes. There was a play where this is when Jordan Travis was in the game. And I don't know, something threw off the timing. I think Jordan Travis got the ball and kind of bobbled a little bit, and that kind of threw off the timing just a little bit. But Holmes still took the handoff, and I mean, there was a burst that I saw that I was just like, ooh, that's different. And I said, I need to see more. I need to see more of that. And lo and behold, a little while later, we saw Holmes get in there and break off a 40-yard touchdown run. And I had said on Twitter before the season, going back to high school, Isaiah Holmes was faster in the 100-meter dash coming out of high school than Trey Benson. We know Benson's a big physical back that has good top end speed. But Holmes ran a 10.7 100-meter dash coming out of high school, and Benson was like around 10.9, I think it was. You saw that last night. I mean, when Holmes hit that edge on that counting play, it looked different, man. So you got Benson, who had 3 touchdowns, by the way. Benson, Holmes, Toafili, Hill, even CJ Campbell looked good, man. They have a 5-hitter monster back there. So that was one thing that stood out to me. Man, Deuce Spann, the way I said it on Twitter. I said he looks like a gazelle back there. That little handoff they gave him, his strides just eat up so much yardage. And I'm like, man, I wonder why they don't use him to take off the top of the defense. He did catch one pass over the middle, I think, for I think it was like 19 to 20 yards. But that's somebody that you would think can beat somebody deep. And really, there's footage when he was at his former place that he beat somebody deep for a touchdown. So I'm wondering why they don't use him in that capacity. So obviously the coaches know more than I. And but maybe that's something that we'll see kind of moving forward. Destiny Hill got his first reception at FSU. Love to see it. Looked real fluid catching that ball. Hakeem Williams, his first FSU reception was a big 4th down conversion. And Vandrevius, or should I say Vanderbeest Jacobs, oh my God, those announcers were brutal. I mean, how do you butcher a guy's name like 4 or 5 times before you finally get it right? Oh man, that was terrible. But Vandrevius Jacobs got a touchdown on his first college reception. So, which brings me to quarterback situation. One of the questions, you may have seen me on a live stream with my boy Adrian Polk, 861 FSU on YouTube. We talked about who may come into the game after Rodemaker comes out, and we kind of were thinking that we may see Duffy first, but that wasn't the case. We saw Brock Glenn out there, and Brock Glenn broke off for like a 35-yard run on his first play, and I think he ran for another 2 yards or so, and then he handed the ball off to Holmes for that 40-yard touchdown that I mentioned earlier. And then it was time for that was his only series, but it's noteworthy that he came in before Duffy, being that he's a true freshman and Duffy is a redshirt freshman. So it'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward with Duffy. Now, Duffy came in and they got a first down behind 2 CJ Campbell runs, and then Duffy ran for a 9-yard gain. And then so it's 2nd and 1 now. 2nd and 1, and Duffy takes a sack, and then it's like 3rd and 6, and he takes another sack, and FSU has to punt. So that's not promising that Duffy, basically blew a 2nd and 1 opportunity to keep the drive going, and then ultimately does not score. While Glenn, obviously, he doesn't throw the ball, but he still leads. He still leads FSU down the field on a touchdown drive. So. We'll see, man. Or maybe it was one of those deals where, Brock Glenn had a better week at practice, and so he earned an opportunity to come off the bench first, maybe. So we'll look at Boston College next week, who is awful. And that should be another rocking chair game. As my man Jeff Cameron would say, you should second your rocking chair and just wait for it to get over pretty much. But maybe next week it'll be a situation where Duffy comes off the bench first. So if that's the case, then that'll kind of negate the whole, Glenn is ahead of him. But if next week Glenn comes off the bench first behind Rodemaker, then you pretty much can write it down that Duffy's the last guy on the depth chart. And so the question would be, is Duffy going to hit the portal? But here's the question: Duffy doesn't have any real footage to put out there so that someone would be willing to really take him unless he just had a private relationship with the coach or something like Kenny Dillingham. But then again, uh, Dillingham has a guy out there who's a freshman who's playing in Jaden Rashada. So he's going to go out there and be a backup. Could be another Chuba Purdy situation where he decides to transfer and it's like, well, you really never get to play because you're not any good. Now, I'm not saying AJW not any good. He just hasn't really had an opportunity to show that. And so that's what I'm saying too. There's Brock Glenn there running for that long run he had. But Duffy hasn't had the opportunity to really put anything out there to make him attracted to anyone in the portal. So interesting situation. The good thing is FSU is in good shape with Travis Rodemaker as the backup. And I tweeted this also. I was like, man, 2 years ago, if you'd have said, hey, Tate Rodemaker will be able to come off the bench and run this offense effortlessly and lead touchdown scoring drives, even if it's against Southern Miss, most people probably would have laughed at you. But man, Rodemaker looked good. I mean, he knew where to go with the ball. He was 3 of 3 for 2 touchdowns, threw a touchdown pass to Marquiston Douglas, who, by the way, how can you be that big and move like that? 42 yards, man. Once he got going, it was like, number one, he was moving really quick. Then number two is like, who wants to tackle somebody that big moving that fast? So it was almost like they were like, yeah, you can go ahead and have this one, big dog. And so good deal, man. It was good to see Tate out there just running things smoothly. So yeah, big win. Like I said, FSU moves up to number 3. They'll have another game next week where they play Boston College. Thank God that game is at 12 o'clock and not 8:30. I was like, man, I'm getting old or something because that first half was like beyond long because I guess, FSU threw 29 passes in the first half and Jordan had quite a few incompletions, and some of those were drops, but obviously that stopped the clock. And I think Southern Miss threw 13 pass attempts and they were only 4 of 13 in the first half. So it's like the clock kept stopping and the game just took forever and ever to get over with, so the game didn't get over with till almost midnight. And so it'll be good to see FSU in action early for a noon game. Again, it's at Boston College and it's sleepy nooner. But like I said, they're terrible. So that should be a game where we see multiple guys get in and get some more valuable reps to continue to build depth. Speaking of depth, it looks like Akeem Dent. I thought it was his hamstring. It may have been a knee. We'll see how long he's out. Then we had KJ Kirkland also go out. So that's 2 safeties that look banged up, so to speak. Kirkland looked like he favored his lower back, and he was in on a tackle, and it could have just been a stinger. It could have been, I don't know. It was, he definitely was favoring something whenever he came out. So that's 2 safeties down right there. I don't think you're going to need them much against Boston College, so that's good. Also, if Robert Scott and Maurice Smith need to miss next week, that's a game that you can afford for that to happen with Clemson on deck. Speaking of Clemson, how can you be down 14-7 in the second quarter against Charleston Southern? Now, obviously, they get it together and blow those guys out 60-17, but Clemson is no longer ranked in the top 25. They are like the first team out, I think it is. And but we saw that the other ACC teams that are ranked are North Carolina, who went life and death again with Appalachian State. And that last non-call, I should say, against in favor of North Carolina was that probably should have been pass interference against North Carolina. But of course, they were playing in Chapel Hill, and so they're going to, give those guys that. Duke is also, I think they're ranked. Carolina's number 20, Duke's number 21, and Miami creeps into the top 25. They're at number 22 with their win over an overrated Texas A&M team. Now, look, I know a lot of people are looking at Miami and saying, "Oh man, Miami looks a whole lot better. They just beat A&M," and blah, 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 blah. Look, Miami is better. I mean, hell, they don't have, I mean, they could only go anywhere but up. Um, for the most part. But look, these games are all about matchup, and A&M absolutely wasn't able to get any pressure on uh, Van Dyke out there, and their O line is better, but I don't really. I think it was more so that A&M just didn't have a pass rush. Um, More so than Miami's offensive line, and Miami still isn't able to really run the ball that well. And of course, we saw FSU's defense. I mean, those guys were lights out against the run. And Frank Gore Jr., who's a decent back, you know, he he got mad and basically just ran off the field last night. So it's all about matchups, and we've seen it back in 2021. FSU with a lesser team was able to beat Tyler Van Dyke and that Miami team. If you get pressure on Van Dyke, he's a different quarterback. Um, and you know, they got a couple receivers in Young and Restrepo, but just not anything that FSU hasn't seen before from a talent perspective. And so I still like FSU, but that one, you know, pretty handedly. Plus, Miami had a few guys already go down on their defensive front yesterday, so they're already starting to eat into their depth a little bit. So, but they have a cupcake schedule. I think they play Bethune-Cookman next week, and they play Clemson and North Carolina back-to-back weeks, and then they travel to Tally. So you know, they very well could beat Clemson the way Clemson looks, unless Clemson just finds another gear or a couple gears, so to speak. And then that game with North Carolina will probably tell you all you need to know about both of those teams going forward. So look, it is possible that Miami could come to Tallahassee undefeated, and you know, I expect Florida State to be undefeated. And what type of atmosphere would that be? Miami coming into Tally undefeated, looking to well, I guess you could say both teams would be looking to spoil the other season. Of course, FSU had higher expectations than Miami this year, but man, that's probably a game that's going to be college game day. That would bring back memories of Miami Florida State rivalry games from years past, with both teams being undefeated. That definitely would be a primetime game. And man, I'm not rooting for Miami, but I would like nothing more than to have them undefeated come to Tally, and we roll them boys for the third consecutive year, and for the second year with Cristobal there. So again, another great win. If you haven't liked this video, guys, make sure you do that if you're still watching up to this point. And make sure you share this. I've gotten a ton of subscribers. I'm up to, man, I think it's something like 380 or so. Go ahead, man. Look, give me the 500. I appreciate all the support. I know last time I did a video, I was at something like two something, what have you. But go ahead and keep spreading the word about the channel. The channel's growing. Definitely appreciate the support. I am probably going to look to do a breakdown of the Southern Miss game, probably just the first half, since you know, I mean, the game was over at halftime, so probably just the first half, just to see if I can point out a few things, and look for that possibly Monday night or Tuesday. But I'll post on Twitter or TweetX or whatever you want to call it, what I decide to do. But again, appreciate the support. Like, subscribe, and until next time, go Noles.